What do you make of this latest twist in this particular tale? I imagine you see this as bad news.
I do see it as bad news. It is a very authoritarian move by our government to exclude courts from controlling whether governments act according to law. It's rather ironic, really, that this happens in relation to this country's management of its asylum system. Because, of course, the reason why we have an asylum system and why people flee and seek asylum is precisely because other regimes elsewhere do not respect courts and the rule of law where they are. And the more we encourage that in an increasingly desperate and difficult world, I'm afraid we'll see more people who seek asylum because regimes will follow the UK's lead now in ignoring courts or seeking to exclude them. So it is a desperately bad situation.
But Steve, this comes down to who governs Britain. The Prime Minister decided, with the backing of the Home Secretary, that he doesn't want European judges thinking they know better. We've got a perfectly good judicial system in Britain. The Supreme Court is envied, it's impartial, and if they block the flight, so be it. But why would we allow European judges to overrule a British court and a British Parliament?
Well, can we just correct something?
Go on.
The bill that is being amended to do what we're talking about today already excludes the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal and the High Court from doing this. Our judges are being excluded from all of this by this bill. And what this is about to do is to exclude the court that's responsible for the European Convention to which we are still a party from doing its job too.
I think that's not quite right, though, Steve, is it? Because isn't it going to say, this bill, that judges will only be able to stop a flight in exceptional circumstances?
What this bill says is that no judicial review action can prevent the removal of somebody. What can happen is someone can ask the Home Secretary not to remove them on the basis that they will come to some very serious, irreversible harm before anyone could do anything to correct it if she goes ahead. And she can decide whether she accepts even to consider the claim or not. And if she does accept to consider the claim, then not the High Court, not the Supreme Court, but potentially an employment tribunal judge may be allowed, if she permits it, to reflect upon whether she's come to the right decision. If you think that is a way of any form of real judicial scrutiny of the powers of the Home Secretary, then I think you are deluding yourself.
Well, this has got a long way to go, of course, Steve. It will go to the House of Lords, this legislation. The House of Lords is stuffed full of retired judges, so there will be a serious legal input into this.
Well, I'm sure there will be lots of scrutiny in the House of Lords. The House of Commons, of course, has been largely excluded from much scrutiny because this bill has been rushed through that place. And indeed, there is now only one day left for that place to even consider the amendments, along with the rest of the bill, that we'll possibly see tomorrow. The House of Lords, of course, as we all know, traditionally, not necessarily always, but traditionally sees itself as being permitted to try and persuade the government to think again if it is doing something that that place thinks is wrong. But the government has a majority in the House of Commons, and it seems hell-bent on passing these disastrous laws.